Hello there everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Savvy from Anatomy.com, and for today's video we're going to be working on a kangaroo. So get your reference images ready and get your drawing pads or whatever you use to work, and let's get started. So as you can see here, for this model we're just doing the basic stuff. We're just blocking out everything using simple geometry, and I'm just editing the geometry just a little bit so that we can make the sculpting phase a lot easier, so we don't have a lot of problems once we start adding details and all that. I also wanted to make sure that the base mesh was correct, because this animal is a lot similar to a human. Some of the proportions are a lot similar to a human, such as the arms, the upper body. Actually, if you want to kind of see what what a kangaroo looks like, it kind of looks like a person just on full squat. So like their butt is all the way to the floor, but they're preparing for a squat and they can get up. That's kind of how it is. It's just their legs are a lot longer. So yeah, so for this one we just worked on this one side of the mesh, and then we mirrored it, and then we entered the sculpting phase right here very quickly. We remeshed everything, and now we're just smoothing things out to prepare it for like the big shapes and all that. So for this model, I actually kind of skipped over some steps. I didn't do the primary well, I kind of did do the primary phase and all that, like I worked on the primary forms and all that, but I was so used to this kind of animal. I've worked on a kangaroo before, so I just kind of jumped right in and started working on the muscles and all the muscle groups that you see here and all that. So sometimes the more you work on certain anatomy, the more used to it you just get so used to working on all these kind of animals that once you work on a new one, it's just really easy for you to just jump in and just start sculpting, rather than you having to do like a lot of research. I still do recommend doing a lot of research though. I do recommend doing research whenever you're starting, just to get an idea of how you're going to start the model, how the model is going to look. Is it going to be posed? Do some research on like anatomy and motion, for example. So just have an idea right before you start sculpting, or right before you start working and all that, of what your model should look like. Either have the idea in your head or just draw it out, like I did in the rhino video. Right at the beginning, I drew out the plan. I had a plan for the rhino, so I started drawing some basic shapes for the rhino. Instead of me experimenting with all these simple geometries in 3D space, I instead planned everything out via drawings. So just have an idea in your head before entering the sculpting phase, or just have an idea in your head of what the animal should look like right at the end, and then draw up a plan, and then start working. I believe when sculpting the kangaroo, the only thing that I did find really tricky was sculpting in the leg details, such as the gastrocnemius medial head, the biceps femoris. It was a little tricky only because it was just tilted a certain way. I was so used to sculpting animals with their legs tilted in another way, that when it came to the kangaroo, my mind just kind of like flipped, and I didn't know what I was doing. But then I just remembered, oh, okay, just take a step back and just look at it from afar, and just remember, okay, this is how your extensors look, this is how your gastrocnemius looks, and the gluteus, and all that, and all the muscles leading to that as well, such as the longi and the latissimus dorsi and the trapezius, also all the muscles around there. So I just had to take a step back and remember the muscles actually do look normal. I'm not going crazy. So one little note or quick advice for the kangaroo: when it came to the legs, when you're working on the gastrocnemius lateral, for example, or the soleus or the Achilles tendon, it will be a little tricky for you, because the leg just gets really thin at some point. So the thighs are really thick, and then the legs going all the way down, it just gets really thin. So one way to combat your mesh just breaking is either dedicate that kind of work for a later stage. So move it to when you have enough subdivision levels. So go up in subdivision levels and then add in all that detail. So add in the Achilles tendon, for example, or the soleus. Or just make sure beforehand that your mesh, it has all that details in the base mesh. So grab a normal icosphere or just a normal sphere, stretch it out, and then shape out the soleus or the gastrocnemius lateral, just so that when you come into the sculpting phase, it's a lot easier. The mesh you have remeshed it properly, and the mesh just kind of agrees with what you're trying to do. If you're not going to do any of this, if you're in a low subdivision level, for example, and you try to add in all these details, the mesh will just break because there's not enough poly or not enough vert count at that one given area. It's really thin. So just experiment a little bit. There's multiple ways of tackling this, but I do suggest just making sure that your base mesh already has these details, or just doing it when you have a high level of subdivisions. When it came to the hands, fortunately, they were pretty similar to a human's hands, and the entire arm, going all the way up to the chest and the when I worked on the torso and all that. I just kind of remember that, oh, this kind of feels like a human. Then let me just go in and add in these details, kind of like stretch things out, still making sort of like a normal human, but just stretching certain things out to fit a kangaroo's proportions. Now, when it came to the face or the head, I did here what I normally do with most of my models. I don't go straight into doing the anatomy first. I just kind of, or the echo shape first. I just kind of sculpt in what it would look like with skin overlaying. And then, as you can see here now, I'm just starting to add in the details, the echo shape details. Like I've said before, it just helps to do that all the time, to sculpt with the thought in mind that, hey, this is what it looks like with skin. Now let's just take it a step down and remove the skin and then add in the echo shape. And then for the eye, obviously, we just add in a normal sphere. This helps a lot, especially when you're sculpting around the eyelids. You kind of just want a guide. So just put in a sphere in there. You don't really have to do any details there. We're not really doing eye details. So just use it as a guide and then sculpt around the eyelids. Coming into the tail, there's a really long line from the start of the gluteus going all the way to the end of the tail. So it will be really hard for you to kind of draw that stroke by yourself manually. It'll just be really tedious as well for you to try and get it right. And then you zoom out and it just looks horrible. So just enable stabilized stroke, the stabilized stroke option in Blender, the option all the way at the top there, close to texture, and fall off. So just enable that. What it does is it allows the brush to lag, or the stroke to lag behind the cursor, and creates a smooth curve. So that's all that it does. It's a great way of working. In ZBrush, I believe it's called lazy stroke. And now that brings us to the end of this video. This was a really quick one. It was also easy. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something. I hope you found this interesting. If you did, be sure to see you in the next one. If you haven't seen any of our previous videos, please check out our channel. There's a lot of content there. It's really interesting. And I will see you in the next video.